What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Brain of Morbius, which is a Tom Baker 4th Doctor story from season 13, which I believe is Tom Baker's 2nd season. Pretty good one this, a little bit overrated in my mind, but we will get into that. First of all, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen The Brain of Morbius and you don't want it spoiled, then, I'd suggest not watching this video. So this one is written by Robin Bland, and we're gonna read the back of the DVD right now. The Time Lords have taken control of the TARDIS, sending the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith into dangerous territory. On the graveyard planet of Khan, the Eternal Sisterhood fights to keep the sacred flame alive. High in the castle, the brilliant surgeon Mahendri Solon conducts gruesome experiments on living flesh. And as a storm approaches, evil from the depths of Time Lord history plots its return to the land of the living. But is even the Doctor's mind a match for the brain of Morbius? So basically this is a story about Morbius, who was a Time Lord just like the Doctor. However, he was killed, but his brain was kind of preserved and is still alive. And we have this Dr. Solon, who is trying to make a body basically for Morbius so that he can live again, so that he can walk and feel. And it's really a Frankenstein-esque story. It takes a lot from, Frankenstein and stuff like that. But altogether, I think it's a pretty decent story. I kind of went into this one knowing that a lot of people loved it. However, most hardcore Doctor Who fans did find it a little bit overrated, and I personally probably also find it a bit overrated, not because it's a bad story, but because I think it's just a bit of a simple concept, and a concept that had been done quite a bit before with Frankenstein and stuff like that. It was a very known concept, but for what it was, I think it was actually a really good story. So, well, first of all, it was a 4-part story, by the way, so a pretty short one, we don't have any crazy 6 parts. I think 4 parts was great. Any more than 4 parts, and I think it would have been a bit too draggy. So we're going to get on to the cast. So first of all, we have Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor. Of course, he is on full form in this story. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's Tom Baker. It was only really, I believe, his last season where he fell off a little bit, but this is still only like his 2nd season, so Tom Baker is great as the 4th Doctor. Plenty of funny moments, plenty of great moments all round. Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, of course, once again, really good. I actually thought, it's been a while since I've watched a Sarah Jane classic Doctor Who story, but from what I can remember, this is one of her better performances. I really think she was great in this story. We then have Philip Maddock as Dr. Solon, the kind of, I wouldn't say the main villain of the story because that's really Morbius, but for most of it he's kind of the main villain because he's the one that the Doctor meets at the start, and then he realizes that the Doctor's a Time Lord, and he's like, the Doctor's head would be perfect for Morbius. So, he tries to chop the Doctor's head off a few times, doesn't really work, but I think the actor Philip Maddock, who plays Dr. Solon, really good, captures that kind of crazy mad scientist really well, and yeah, I think he's all around really good. We then have Colin Fay as Kondo, who is Dr. Solon's kind of servant, his assistant. He's a bit of a dumb character, that's kind of what he's supposed to be. He's almost kind of caveman-like, a little bit stupid, and I think he plays that pretty well. I mean, I think it's a pretty easy thing to play, so there's not really too much I can say about the actor, but I think altogether, for what he was given, yeah, he did a good job. We also have Michael Spice, who was the voice of Morbius. Yeah, really good menacing voice. Just not really too much to say about that. Just I think it really captured what Morbius was. So a really good voice there. And then we have, I can't remember what all the Sisterhood of Khan were called, but basically all of them were pretty good, especially the older woman, the leader. She was very good, she had a few pretty good scenes. I felt like the older sister was pretty good at the talking and all that, and the conversations, but she kept on like opening her eyes really wide. I don't know if she was supposed to be doing that, or if that was just something she was doing. It kind of put me off a bit, it was a bit weird, but on the whole, I think everyone in there was pretty good as well. So now that we get on to some good bits about this episode, first of all, the introduction to the Sisterhood of Khan. This is the first time we ever see the Sisterhood of Khan. Now, if you are a fan of New Doctor Who, you'll know that the Sisterhood of Khan appeared in Night of the Doctor with the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, they made him drink the elixir of life to regenerate into the War Doctor. That was the first time I thought they were ever introduced, but I realized when I got into this episode, I was like, oh, the Sisterhood of Kana in this, and when looking it up, this is actually their first ever appearance, and their only appearance until Night of the Doctor. So, yeah, it's really good to see the Sisterhood of Khan coming into this story. I think they play a pretty good part. Sarah Jane going blind is a really, really good thing. I just think Elizabeth Sladen plays it really well. She really plays being blind very, very well. It's very convincing, and altogether, it comes for some great dialogue. I like how, when she's blind, she's like looking around, kind of what you'd expect from someone who has gone blind. I just think she plays that really well. Solon shooting Kondo and putting Morbius' brain into a body. So yeah, Solon in the final part shoots, or maybe the third part actually, I'm not sure, shoots Kondo because Kondo basically this whole time has been wondering, he's been wanting his arm back. He has, I think it's his left arm, he's got a hook on the end of his hand. That's basically his hand, and he wants Solon to put his arm back on. But he finds out that Solon actually took Kondo's arm off and put it onto the Morbius creature. So that's really, when Kondo finds out about that, he gets really, really mad. Solon shoots him. It's a really, really great moment. Also, just Solon putting Morbius's brain with the body is also just a really good moment. The bit where Sarah Jane tells the Doctor Morbius is too late, and he touches his head. So basically, after Sarah Jane finds out that Solon has already put Morbius's brain into the creature, into the body, she finds the Doctor and she says, "Oh, it's too late, Doctor. The Morbius creature, he's already out." But the Doctor touches his head because Solon kept saying that the Doctor's head was needed for Morbius, to house his brain in, basically. So when Sarah Jane was like, "Oh, it's too late, Morbius is already out," the Doctor touches his head like, do I still have my head? I think that's just a really good bit of acting by Tom Baker, really good bit of writing. I really just love that scene. I kind of cracked up laughing a little bit when I saw that, just the way he plays it off. I just thought that was great. Classic Tom Baker right there. The bit where the Doctor and Morbius, towards the end of part 4, end of the whole story, when they kind of do that mind game thing, they hook themselves up to that machine and do that mind thing. I thought that was a really cool concept, and seeing some of Morbius's old regenerations I thought was really good. I mean, it starts off, we see the Doctor's old regeneration, so we see the first, second and third Doctor, and then we see Morbius's old regeneration, so we see him looking like a human, and I think that was just a really good touch. I thought that was a really good moment. It adds a little bit more, it adds quite a lot more to Morbius's character, and I thought that was just a really, really good thing to add. And yeah, once again, all the performances were pretty damn good, especially Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen, and I'd say Philip Maddock as well as Dr. Solon. All three of them were absolutely amazing. Now, there were a few things in this episode that I wasn't a big fan of. First of all, the Sisterhood's ritual was a bit weird. At the start of I think it was the first part, they did a weird ritual where they had the old woman in the middle, and they have that like sacred flame thing, the eternal flame, whatever you call it, and they were like on their knees and like going up in the air, like moving, waving their hands around and going sacred fire, sacred flame, and it was, I can understand what it was going for. I just felt it was a bit weird. I mean, it worked in what it was doing, but I just found it really cringy, and it also went on for a bit long. It went on for quite a while. I think it was when they were kind of teleporting the TARDIS to them, when they found out the Doctor was there and the TARDIS was there. They were teleporting it to them, and they were doing that, and it went on for ages, and I'm just like, okay, this is a little bit cringy. Is this gonna stop anytime soon? A little bit weird, but I can understand what they were going for. Morbius not really appearing until the final part is a little bit of a letdown. I mean, we get Morbius's brain talking in part 2. That's when we actually hear Morbius for the first time and see, at least his brain anyway. So I think that's good, and Solon kind of works his own little villain in the first and second part. However, we don't actually see Morbius in the suit until part 3, until right at the end of part 3. He's pretty good in part 4, you know, really the main focus of part 4, but it would have been nice to see actual Morbius walking around, talking and all that sort of stuff a little bit more. However, I think it was still alright. The fact that, you know, I'm glad that we did at least hear Morbius and see his brain talking in part 2, because if we didn't see that, if all we saw from Morbius was him right at the end of part 3, I'd been like, yeah, well, that was a bit late. But yeah, altogether, I didn't really mind it. But the main thing that annoyed me about this episode was Morbius's death. Now, after the Doctor and Morbius do that kind of mind game thing where they can see each other's regenerations and stuff, Morbius gets pushed off a cliff by the Sisterhood of Khan and kind of just dies. Well, we presume he dies, he just gets pushed off a cliff and he yells, he screams, and there we go, he's gone. And I thought, that's a really very anticlimactic ending. After doing this mind game with the Doctor, his kind of circuitry that connects his brain together, really gets his brain working, it kind of starts sparking. I believe he does kind of win, because the Doctor falls on the ground, he's basically dead until he uses the elixir of life to basically survive. But Morbius kind of runs off and then gets pushed off the cliff by the Sisterhood. I thought that was a bit of an anticlimactic ending, you know. It's like, oh yay, here we go, he's dead. He's been pushed off a cliff. I thought that was a bit of a crappy ending. And then altogether, I think the reason why this one isn't as high up, I don't think, as some other Tom Baker stories, is just because the concept a bit overused. You know, Frankenstein's monster, it's not a very original concept. I think the way it was done here was very well done, but altogether, I think it does lose a few points just because it's not the most creative of concepts. But anyway, The Brain of Morbius I think is a pretty good episode. Like I said, perhaps a little bit overrated, however still a lot of fun. If I was to rate it, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I was kind of like, should I give it an 8.5 out of 10? I looked at a lot of other people's reviews, a lot of other people did give it about an 8 out of 10. And I was like, you know what, I think I will. I give Frontier in Space, which is a John Pertwee story, last video, I gave that a 7.5. People would usually rate that at about a 9. So I think I do prefer this over Frontier in Space personally, but you know, I think it's just a little bit too simplistic and not completely original to give it anything much higher. Maybe on reconsideration and after watching all of Tom Baker's era, I might give it an 8.5, but at the moment it's an 8 out of 10. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Comment what other classic Doctor Who stories you'd like me to review in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video.